Hello everyone, welcome back, and today I'm going to show you how to create this spiral particle lines animation that I posted on Instagram, and apparently everyone liked it more than the typography one, so that's the one that I'm going to explain. And it's a very gloomy day here, so perfect for recording. And let's start. Let's go to our composition. I'm going to start with creating a particle system. So you can click it here in the shelf and it will create an emitter and a shape for us. I'm not going to explain all of those settings because there are a lot. There's actually a good tutorial by Alex Amor called An Introduction to Particles that's going to explain a lot of details about how to set a particle system. And I'm just going to show you how to create this animation step by step. And I'll try to explain why I'm doing some decisions. So we have our particle system, and right now if we play it, what happens is it shoots the particles up and then they fall down. That's because we have gravity. So if we go to our particle shape, we can set up the gravity settings. Right now it's set to 9.8 and we are simply going to remove it, put it to 0. And also particles have initial speed, so that makes them shoot up into a certain direction with a speed. So if the gravity settings we are setting in the shape, the direction and the amount of particles and the speed, it's something that we set in the emitter. So I'm going to reduce the initial speed down to 4, and now our particles are going slower. And I'm also going to add an oscillator on the direction. So we just add an oscillator behavior and I'll set it to full circle from 0 to 360 degrees. And I'll increase the time scale to 2. So what happens now, it still looks pretty random. It doesn't look like anything that we want to create, but don't worry, we'll get there. And we also want our particles to stay on the screen longer, so we'll increase their lifespan up to 13. So now, as you can see, they're not just disappearing super quickly. Yeah, let's look at this parameter. So we have the drag force and the mass of the particle. So what the drag force does, it applies, it applies like a force acting the opposite to the motion of the particle. So the stronger this force is, the harder it will be for particles to shoot, to move. The heavier the mass is, the bigger the number, the slower the particles will move. I'm going to reduce the force down to 0 and increase the mass up to 10. So now the particles are moving more free, away from the emitter, because there's not so much force acting opposite to their motion. And so basically right now we just have the particles, like those little dots. There's a lot that you can do with this, but I actually want to create, the lines animation, and for that we will have to use a trails shape. So I'm creating this with a quick add menu, trails, and then we will need to tell our trail shape what kind of shape motion we want to track to create our trails. So trails are like lines. So we need to take particle shape and put it inside the input shape. And then I'll just set it to white for now, so we can see what's going on. So right now it looks super duper random. Let's also change the emitter size. So right now, I think we could use the point, I guess, but when I was experimenting with it, I simply reduced the size of the emitter to 0. So what happens now is that all of the particles are shooting from the center, just from this point, not from a bigger surface. So it looks more organized already. And let's also edit our trails settings. I'm going to increase the stroke width up to 10 and set the cap style to round. And I'm also going to make tapered width. So the start width 10 and the end width 100. So you can see it's starting to look a little bit more similar to the final example. What's happening now is that we are shooting a lot of particles. I'm going to turn off the trails just for a second. So this is how it looks, the particle system. and we can adjust the amount of particles, like the maximum amount of particles that we want to see, and the rate at which they are being produced. So the rate, if you have the emitter type set to time, the rate means it's going to be 100 particles per second. The settings that I used is the 340. So this looks better. And yeah, let's create a color array. So the color array, we're going to attach it to the stroke color, and I'm going to remove the black because I don't want to have this color, and I think I'll just add another pink one. Perfect, we are almost there. It looks almost the way that the final animation should look. Oh, the only thing, I forgot to increase the length of the trail. I think it's going to be at 50, and we're going to add a modifier. So the modifier, there's many of them. They're going to basically modify the way our particles move, and in this case I'm going to use a vortex modifier. So it creates a vortex here, and I'll increase the size up to 2.8 and reduce the strength to 50, and that's it. Now we have our particles shooting out of the center, all colorful, and there are trails following them, and then it disappears. So there is a lot of different variations that you could do with this, and I really encourage you to try different things. So for instance, instead of using the color array, we could use the color blend. It's something that I taught in the gradient tutorial. If you haven't watched this one, you can check it out. So I would connect color blend to stroke color instead, and so we'll have this sort of gradient animation on our particles. We can experiment with emitter, so do a different rate, different amount of particles, so it will change our animation quite drastically. You can also experiment with an oscillator. You can add different modifiers, not the vortex modifier, but another one, or you can change the size settings to do something different, something like that. Yeah, so I really hope you try other things with this, and I would love to see what you create. As usual, the project file for this will be in my Notion template, the guide. I'll leave the link in the description, but basically you can just go to project files here and search by source or author and find my name, Haley's Emotion, and the file will be here. And that's it. I hope to see you in the next tutorials. Have fun and leave your comments. It always motivates me to do more tutorials. Thank you so much.